There are 4.4 million people in New Zealand and roughly 1 million guns. What access do we want our police officers to have to those guns? Look at this image. It's a tourist snap of New York, two cops in Times Square. Classic Americana, really, but if we look closer, we'll see that both of these police officers have pistols, as all American police officers carry guns. Do you want that? After the shooting of two police officers and a police dog in Christchurch yesterday, everyone is asking where to now for cops, guns and New Zealand. Clearly, police officers should be able to defend themselves. Equally clearly, guns are already part of policing in New Zealand. But where do ordinary cops have those guns? On their hips? In their cars? Locked in cupboards at the police station with the Armed Defender Squad on standby? We ask that very important question tonight, beginning with the Police Minister, Judith Collins.
Well, I think it's very important to consider the risks that police take, but at the same time to think about the style of policing that we want for New Zealand. I'm one of the people who believes very firmly that New Zealand police have such a record of trust from the New Zealand public for a reason, and one of those reasons is that that people don't generally in New Zealand see police as the enemy. They see police as our friends.
Absolutely. So what does that mean? Let's try and draw a line in the sand here as you see it. Does that mean you would be or would not be comfortable with every police officer in New Zealand having a pistol in a holster on their belt, American style?
No, I would not, and for the various reasons that New Zealand police have a great deal of trust and confidence from the New Zealand public, and part of that is in their style of policing. However, I do acknowledge that police face very difficult and dangerous situations, and I'm fully supportive of better access to arms.
OK, so better access, but not in their belts, which means what? In their cars, in lockboxes, Norway style, I suppose?
Yes, very much along those lines, and accepting, as we should, that police already now have access to firearms and do in fact carry them on their belts when needed. But I don't think that we want to have a style of policing for our, for instance, Cops in Schools program with officers wandering around with guns on their belts when they're wandering around a school. I mean, that's not the style of policing we want. We have very much a community-based style of policing, which is very unusual in the world.
It's very unusual. And it's part of what defines us, isn't it? When we go overseas and we're asked to describe New Zealand, one of the things we sometimes say is, you know, that our police don't carry guns, right? So we are talking about a sense of ourselves here, aren't we?
Well, it is, and I accept that it is very much that, but we shouldn't romanticise it. We do know that police do have to carry guns at various times, but it does go back to the core value of being Kiwis, actually. And New Zealand police, as I say, they really rate way up there. They're the second most trusted organisation, and I think a lot of that's got to do with the style of policing.
Absolutely. So if we look at the situation yesterday where Senior Constable Bruce Lamb and Constable Mitchell Alatolo were shot doing routine police work, if they don't have pistols on their belts, and you're saying that they ought not to, and their pistols are back in the car, or their guns are back in the car, in those sorts of situations they are going to remain at risk, aren't they? It will remain an occupational hazard in routine police work, right?
Well, I think the decision needs to be made by those officers when they've got these weapons in the car to take the weapons with them in situations which could become, at some stage, difficult. Now, that might mean that they will use or have weapons with them more frequently than they do now.
This is very subjective and ad hoc, though, isn't it? I mean, look, I suspect that the overwhelming majority of people will realise, along with you and I, that this is difficult to get it right, that this is a hell of a balancing act. But do we say to these guys, carry guns as and when you feel you require them? In which case, aren't we just simply saying, carry guns?
Well, no, the Commissioner's working on the policy and has been for some time to make sure we get it right. But I think it's important that we trust the officers to make decisions based on what they can see and also what the knowledge is that they have of the area or the situation.
Okay.
That we've got to trust them to do it.
Okay, in that context then, would you have expected that Senior Constable Lamb and Constable Alatolo would have carried guns with them yesterday in what was a very routine inquiry?
Well, it's very hypothetical. I mean, we've got a situation which is still being investigated, and I wouldn't want to jump to conclusions. Sure. What I do know, though, is that if we don't trust these officers to make decisions based on what their assessment of the situation, then we're second-guessing them. And
Absolutely.
look, we've seen that with tasers. We've got to let them use them when they need to, take them with them, and they can actually save lives.
OK, Minister, then, if they need to be available to them, would you expect that guns would be in every patrol car so that they are always available, you know, a walk away or a run away?
Well, I'm going to wait for the policy to come back from the Commissioner.
What's your personal opinion on this, as the Minister?
Well, I think it's very important that I get the advice back from the police. I mean, they're the experts in the operational side. This is absolutely an operational decision for the Commissioner. And my view is very much that if he believes that they need to, then we should do it.
There's a growing sense, I think, from the Commissioner and certainly from the association who speak, they say on behalf of the rank and file, that that ought to be the case. If they come back to you and say, that's what we'd like to do, will you support them in that?
Well, I'll certainly look at it, and I think it's important that they understand that I believe absolutely that police have to be able to use whatever tools we've got available to them, and they shouldn't worry that someone's going to come back and second-guess them. They've got to make the right choices.
Judith Collins, so that's the government's position as it stands so far. What do you think?